All right. Well, welcome back to the Triple Doink podcast. This is episode number 3, the Jordy Nelson episode. My name is Ryan, and I'm joined, as always, by the Samwise Gamgee to my Frodo Baggins. How are you, Bryce?
Hello. I don't know how to respond to that. I knew you were going to go with something,
Well,
but
would it be more fair to say that we're more like Legolas and Gimli in that we hated each other initially and then reluctantly became friends?
I don't believe I ever hated you. I
Oh, really?
No.
Oh,
I always kind of looked up to you.
oh.
Oh man,
All
damn,
all
that
right. Well,
hurts.
anyway, this is the Triple Doink podcast.
Oh man.
um,
That's a punch to the gut. Wow.
um,
In any case.
so now we're doing a podcast together. So like I said, this is the Jordy Nelson episode, but there will be plenty of time for that. Is there anything that you want to do before we get into the news? I mean, how have you been this past week?
I've been pretty good. I turned 20. Uh
Yeah, happy birthday.
yeah, I partook in some substances that in the state that we currently live in would be deemed illegal, and would like
Mm,
to tell the listeners I'm not doing it again. I didn't like it.
okay.
The devil's lettuce
These
is not for me.
This has been life lessons.
I have a lot of friends who choose to engage in that.
Well, I mean, we
So
live in Wisconsin, so we kind of all have those people in our
yeah,
lives.
there's not a lot to do here, really.
Yeah.
You either really like alcohol or really like substances that the law doesn't like you like.
hmm Well, anyway,
Yeah.
let's get into the news, and I think we'll begin with the trade that went down yesterday, with the Browns sending Emmanuel Agba to Kansas City.
Which I assume
And
will.
well, but here's the twist. In return, it was a player for player deal, and the Browns got Eric Murray, and he is a safety. So let's hop on the safety carousel right off the bat.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, I can actually hear it this time. Um, very faintly though.
Very family.
So anyway, um, yeah. So Eric Murray going to the Browns. So that means that now our chain of teams is how many teams long? So I think we have the Texans.
Isn't it like half the league at this point? Because the Texans are now
Let's
chained
start.
because the Chiefs have. Yeah.
Let's start this chain. So the Texans send Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs. Now Eric Murray goes from the Chiefs to the Browns. Then Jabril Peppers to the Giants. That's 4. Landon Collins to Washington is 5. Haha Clinton Dix to Chicago is 6. Adrian Amos to the Packers is 7. And Kentrell Bryce
To the Bucks.
to the Bucks is 8. And then they still have Chris Conti out there, who's a free
Did we
agent.
count the Giants?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think that
So
is all the teams. But Jesus Christ.
The longest chain we have right now is 8 teams. And like, if the Texans go and sign Chris Conti, it'll make a complete circle. And I love that.
Chris Conti from the Bucks, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some other teams out there too that have made moves. Of course, we know about the Earl Thomas from Seattle to Baltimore, and then Eric Weddle from Baltimore to the Rams.
So if they somehow intertwine.
Right. So if we get, like, for example, Chris Conti signing with Seattle and then a Rams safety going to the Texans, I mean, holy cow, that'd be great.
And we just have this huge rotation.
And another team is in the mix too, because the Steelers released Morgan Burnett.
And yeah, I don't know if anyone wants Morgan Burnett at this stage in his career.
Well, probably not, but he might sign somewhere.
He could be a practice squad.
I think he's better than practice squad. He'll catch on somewhere, I feel like.
He might be a backup, I guess, but he is so past his prime.
Well, he is. He's on the wrong side of 30. But I I always liked Morgan Burnett when he was with the Packers. He was honestly the best player in that secondary for many years. Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, I wish him well, but the Steelers didn't do any favors for him by waiting so long to release him.
yeah. He's now entering the off season quite late. The
Yeah,
draft it's draft month, and he's just entering it. So
right.
that
And
sucks.
Eric Berry is still out there, by the way.
He
So
is, yeah.
that's another angle on this too. Of course, the Chiefs are now losing two safeties, Eric Berry and Eric Murray. So I don't know how that factors into the equation,
Yeah,
um,
they're gonna need to get a few sources.
but back to the Agba trade though. I mean, it seems like a good trade for both sides.
Yeah,
Emmanuel Agba was
I thought that it was really smart for the Browns because that was like the one position that everyone was questioning them for.
well, yeah, and
Eric
I
Murray
mean,
is all right.
I
I
don't
think
know if he'd be a starter. They'll probably sign somebody else too.
they're gonna probably get a rookie safety.
Yeah, and
I
I
would.
wouldn't be surprised. I still wouldn't be surprised if they signed Eric Berry too.
Yeah,
But anyway, I mean, Agba was kind of expendable because they acquired a couple of pass rushers in the offseason. And the Chiefs desperately needed pass rushing help. So that
didn't
it
they?
works
Did
out.
the Chiefs get to keep D Ford? He left, right?
No, he's with the 49ers now.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and Justin Houston went to the Colts. So
They just basically lost everything.
that defense is just getting completely rebuilt, which
All right. I think I'm gonna stop the safety carousel music for now
Yeah, go ahead.
as we talk about the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs kind of needed to rebuild that defense, and that's what they're doing, and we'll see how that works out. The Chiefs have a lot of question marks right now. Like they had such a great year last year, and then it's been a bad off season.
I don't think the Chiefs are gonna be good next year. Yeah, I think that the Chiefs. I mean, barring Tyreek Hill, right? That's the
Yeah.
big question. Like, is Tyreek Hill gonna play?
Mm,
Tyreek. Yeah.
yeah.
Words.
Right. So anyway, that's it for the safety carousel for right now.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more safety action. Anytime any safety moves teams, we have to revisit the safety carousel now.
We have to revisit it. We'll have a whole visual for it one day.
One day, yeah, just like I mean, we'll just have a GIF of like the roller coaster tycoon merry-go-round just spinning.
But it will have like all the faces of all the safeties.
Oh man, that would be too complicated.
Hey.
That sounds like a you problem, Bryce.
Yeah, it sounds like a YP, not a MyP.
Okay, so anyway, well, we might as well address the elephant in the thumbnail, which is Jordy Nelson.
That's a kind of rude way to say it.
I'm not saying he's fat.
Is that why he's retired? Do you think? Because he's out of shape now?
Well, I don't think he's out of shape. I just think that he can't run anymore. But anyway, that's not why we're talking about him. Jordy Nelson announced his retirement this past week, and he's one of the all-time great Packers in my book. I'm happy for him.
Though.
No, he didn't retire a Packer, but within hours of him announcing his retirement, the Packers announced that he was definitely a Ring of Honor guy. So, he's honestly, he might be the best wide receiver at his prime that the Packers have had. And I know my dad would whine about Sterling Sharp, but I don't think I've seen a better Packers receiver in my lifetime than Jordy Nelson at his peak.
Really?
Really.
I mean, there have been a lot of receivers for the Packers that were fantastic, especially through the 2000s.
I know Javon Walker is one that like his prime got cut short by injuries, so maybe he would have been a much better wide receiver. He was certainly very good, and of course Donald Driver had his whole career, but
Donald Driver and Greg Jennings, I would say, were better receivers than Nelson. And I
not
think
Jennings,
Greg
not
Jennings is
Jennings.
better than Jordy Nelson. Yeah.
No, I mean, when they were teammates, Jennings was the better player, but I think that after Jennings left, Nelson's game kind of went up to another level, and he just had this insane mind meld with Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like he was very underappreciated,
I agree with that,
because
but I mean you're comparing him to I even Devontae I would say was better than Nelson in his prime. Like Devontae's
well,
insane.
Devontae is still in his prime. We'll see what he does over the next year or two.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love Devontae Adams. I'm not, not to disparage Devontae at all, but yeah, I really think Jordy Nelson was very underappreciated in his prime, nationally. I mean, in Packers circles, everybody loved Jordy, but yeah, I mean, the things that he could do with Aaron Rodgers, like stretching the perimeter. I mean, those back shoulder throws were just impossible to defend. Like
Yeah. He would
you
just
could do
caress it on his shoulder, right? Towards the
you could do everything absolutely perfectly, and there was no way to stop that completion.
Yeah. Yeah, he was really good. I would say that he's a top 5 Packer receiver that I've witnessed easily.
Yeah,
But
yeah, definitely.
I mean, God, I've watched a lot of really good Packer receivers.
But like the thing with Jordy is that he was pretty versatile, and that he could be a possession receiver, he could be a deep threat, he could he could work the sideline better than anybody. And it's just like I said, the whole mind meld, like it was just impossible to cover him because he and Rogers were just so consistently on the same page.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to that ACL injury, I there were few wide receivers in the game who I would have preferred over Jordy. I mean, obviously, the Julio Joneses of the world, sure, but you know, there are a few.
I would say that
Other
he's
than that, other
the
than that
best
select,
rock of a receiver I've ever seen.
yeah,
Like he was
just
the most consistently fantastic guy. Like
yeah,
you could
you
rely
knew
on him on every play.
exactly.
That was what I thought was fantastic about Jordy.
Yeah,
Was
you
that
could
I never
always
thought he
rely.
was gonna throw a game.
You could always rely on him to make the big catches, and you always knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, great player, deserving of this thumbnail, honestly, and poor Kyler Murray, but
Hasn't even played a
but
game yet.
yeah, that's true. We'll probably get him on the thumbnail again at some point, probably when he's drafted. But
Yeah. Him,
anyway,
Dwayne Haskins, and Drew Lock will probably be on the thumbnail. I'll probably also try to sneak in Gardner Minshew because, but I think we'll also talk about a few of those later in the podcast.
yeah. Um, so anyway, great career for Jordy. I kind of wish that he had just retired before last season, so he could have retired a Packer. But
You
I
know,
I get it. The other nice thing about Jordy, and this is why I have a kind of a beef with Greg Jennings, is that he made it a really messy divorce when he left Green
yeah,
Bay.
he went to like the Vikings and said, "No, I'm better than y'all."
Yeah, he like called out Aaron Rodgers for being a poor leader and all that shit. And like
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a football player.
I like
He's
I
trying to be a
understand
competitor.
that. I understand that,
I
but
never
like
faulted
Jordy
for it. I
Nelson,
thought I respected it more than I hated it, honestly.
I hated it. Not gonna lie. Um, and but Jordy, when he left, and yes, he played 1 year with the Raiders, but he was a class act. It was, and so far, to Randall Cobb's credit, also since he's left Green Bay, he hasn't spoken up and called out anybody, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Nelson and Cobb are both stand up guys like that. But
I also think they saw what happened to Greg Jennings' career after he left Green Bay,
yeah,
and
that's probably a
kind of
factor
wants to
too.
maintain maybe that connection.
Yeah. So anyway, great career, Jordy. You're one of my all-time favorites. I just wish you hadn't torn that ACL because who knows how many more great years you would have had.
I mean, um, what I will say about Jordy that I really like is that I love when players do this when they just play until they can't play no more.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because the biggest
Right,
regret
the
for
Jeremy Macklin route, as we found out last week.
yeah the I'm tripping on it. The biggest gripe for a competitor in anything that they compete in is that they didn't get to play enough. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to like squash those what ifs, like what if I had another year in me? If you just go until your body says I'm done, and everyone else in the world says you're done, and no one will get you, then you're going to have a full career. That's how it goes. Careers have ups and downs, and they usually do not end on an up. because
Yeah,
and it's okay. That's perfectly okay because you tried, you failed, and that's okay. At least you tried cuz that's
right.
way better than not.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I think we should move on from
I
Jordy
do
at
too.
this
Yeah.
point. But he's, like I said, one of the all-time great Packers. Um, okay, so the biggest news I think that's happened in this past week has been the rule change proposals that were discussed at the owners' meetings.
Yeah.
So,
Was it the pass
the,
interference one?
right. So the biggest change is that pass interference is now going to be a reviewable play. So, any pass interference call or non-call can be subject to challenge by the coaches or by booth review under 2 minutes and a half.
I do believe everyone saw this coming though.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all saw this coming the minute that they blew that call in the NFC Championship.
Yep.
Um,
Uh,
do you have any thoughts on this? Because I have thoughts, but I'd like to hear from you first.
Long time coming. Like it's been one of those things where it's just like, what do you mean we can't review something? Like I, I didn't really understand the logic completely because I think the argument that the NFL kept making as to why that was never reviewable in the first place was that well the refs are never going to say they're wrong or something like that was their mindset and it just never made perfect sense as to why humans can't admit to making human error on the field. So when an error occurs, you should be able to dispute that.
Yeah.
That's it's like a no-brainer as to why it should be reviewable. So
Well, and here's the problem I have is that the coach's challenge itself is a little bit broken because,
yeah, because you can just booth review.
and I don't know if you I don't know if you listened to one of the more recent ATN podcasts, but I really liked what Chris Wessling said about this issue, um, where he was basically saying that coaches are control freaks, and so they're going to want to review everything naturally,
Yeah.
and that's why, of course, you have to limit the number of challenges. But really, in his opinion, and I kind of agree, having thought about it, that the really we shouldn't have a coach's challenge. It should all be done from an independent official who is neutral, you know, who
Yeah.
is watching either from the you know the luxury box or whatever, or from New York.
It shouldn't be like a competition in itself to see if something was fair or not.
Yeah, I mean, and
That
they
whole concept is kind of it's weird drama that's inputted into the sport where if
I
something
mean,
was messed up, it should just be reviewed. That's just how it should be.
yeah,
If
and
something,
people love to talk about this past year in Joe Philbin's first game after Mike McCarthy got fired.
yeah,
Um, Philbin, it was against
didn't
Atlanta,
he throw
and
both his challenges in the first half or something?
in not just the first half, it
First
was the
quarter.
first drive of the game for the Falcons. On like, I think it happened twice in 3 plays. He threw the challenge flag on Julio Jones catches and lost both challenges.
Epic.
And honestly, like looking at the plays, I do think that he should have won both of those challenges. Um, my personal opinion, I don't think that Julio made either of those catches, but they both stood on review.
And then they didn't have a
And
challenge, and then you couldn't dispute big
well, and
calls
like
anymore.
the stupid thing was I understood challenging the first one. And yes, I think he should have won that challenge and they lost it and whatever. But he shouldn't have then thrown the second flag because even
Yeah,
if you win it, you're out of challenges for the game.
dude, go big or go home. I like
but
that mentality.
but
First
the
game
thing
as a
is,
coach, you know what? Try anything.
it was also for like a 4 yard gain. So like
Exactly.
it definitely
Challenge for
wasn't worth
every
the
yard.
second
It's a
one.
good mentality to teach your players.
The first one, if I remember correctly,
No,
if the Packers had won the first challenge, it would have been like it would have set them up with a third down and long,
and that's
whereas
a
they had
good thing to challenge. No, I like challenges like that. I think people should
gotten
be more willing to challenge first quarter.
like they had gotten the first down in the actual play on the field, and then if the Packers had won the challenge, it would have put them in a third down. So it was worth the challenge the first time, but the second one was just stupid. Um. Anyway, I digress. Um. But if we're going to keep the coach's challenge in play, which it doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon, then yes, I think that these types of calls need to be reviewable because you can't have games being decided by poor officiating.
Yeah,
You know, having been on the side that loses because of bad officiating, it really
I
sucks.
still remember that Seahawks Packers game.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about the fail Mary either.
The Golden Tate catch, that was ew.
Yeah, I mean that was awful, but
You've
I'm
been
not
on
even
both
referring to
sides, to be
that.
fair.
Mm, yes. Well, if you're talking about Dez caught it, I still think he didn't. But anyway, um, the the one that I was referring to was the Packers lost a playoff game to the Cardinals.
Oh, the face mask?
The face mask, yeah.
Yeah. Overtime face mask.
Mm-hmm.
Ran it in. That's the most sour taste because that was such a competitive game, and Rodgers has the ball in overtime, so the whole entire league is watching this game now. Like, oh shit, we're about to see something. Well, you
Yeah.
saw
Well, and
something.
the other thing was that game went into overtime 45-45.
Yeah. So anyone who
Like
got the
a
ball was going to win.
ridiculous score.
And it turns out that the Cardinals were good enough to make the Super Bowl. So all I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is that literally would have been the back-to-back Super Bowl run again.
Yeah. Well, anyway, again, that's not really the issue at hand. I like I said, games shouldn't be decided by a bad call like that or a bad no call. So I'm glad that these things are going to be reviewable. I just wish that they would revise the review system itself.
Yeah.
So
Until the game has an artificial intelligence to determine every single play to a T, we're going to have these problems.
yeah. So anyway, other rule changes that we had mentioned last time, the onside kick change that was proposed, and that one has now been rejected.
It's just
Yeah, I I wish that one would have gone through, but
I care about that one more than pass interference
I do too.
cuz
Really,
I hate kickoffs. They're so unsafe.
kickoffs need to go away. And I feel like it's inevitable that they will go away. It's just a question of time. And
What's gonna make them go away is some guy's gonna snap his neck on a play, and then everyone's gonna realize we need these gone.
yeah, I would love for kickoffs to go away before somebody dies on the field, but
But
unfortunately
I
that
think it's gonna have to be a scenario where someone's career ends.
well, and I mean we've seen career-ending injuries,
I
and I,
know,
I know
but
I know it wasn't a kickoff, but I'm thinking of Ricardo Lockett, the Seahawks player who got blindsided on a punt, um, and that brings me to the next rule change which they passed, which was blindside blocks are now illegal in all instances.
that's gonna be so hard to.
Well, right, and like,
That's like the rule where you're not supposed to hold when you're blocking,
mhm,
but every O lineman literally holds on every play.
yeah. Well, and the thing with the blindside blocks, like it's common sense to eliminate them at this point because it's such a risk of injury. But it, in conjunction with the kickoff thing, it does make it now even harder for a return team to have a successful kick return because there's just one more penalty to be called against you.
Because it's impossible not to do it. Essentially, you're gonna end
Like,
up doing it by accident.
like every big, it seems like every big kick return you see gets called back by a penalty anyway,
Yeah,
and this is just one more penalty to call it back on.
and a perfect
And
kick return is one that goes for 35 yards, not 50.
right, and I completely agree with making blindside blocks illegal. I'm just saying that kickoffs are going to be even more boring going forward than they have been.
Yeah,
Um, the NFL moving the extra point back to make it more challenging and a more exciting play. Like they can do that, but they're not going to revise the kickoffs in any
they
way.
made field goals point after touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
More exciting than a kickoff
Mm-hmm.
because uh, I can't even name one kick return last year that I saw.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Um,
I can think of a few punts. I
yeah, I
think.
know Tyreek Hill had a punt return
Yeah,
early on. Yeah, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of a kick return touchdown that happened last year.
the coolest kick return play I've seen was that Packer play with is it Ty Montgomery who put his feet out of bounds.
Yeah, and then reached back inbounds
Like
for it. That was Ty Montgomery.
those, that's literally the coolest that a kickoff can get.
Well, and actually,
Some guy manipulating the rules.
Randall Cobb did a similar thing on a different kickoff where
I
he
saw
he
that too.
was
Yeah,
he was standing with 1 foot out of bounds, and like that's just knowing the rules and being smart. But like, still, we need to get rid of kickoffs.
the
Um,
fact that you get rewarded for breaking the rules.
and by the way, I used to be opposed to the idea of eliminating kickoffs until I heard a plan for replacing them that I really liked, which was the Greg Schiano plan of make it just a fourth down, and if you're not looking to onside kick, you would just punt it away. And that makes so much more sense because punts are not only safer than kickoffs, but they're more exciting because there's more of a chance of a return.
Yeah, so essentially the John Boy's video, if anyone
Yeah, the John Boys video.
like it,
Um,
he outlines it perfectly. And if anybody doesn't know, I think I'll provide a link to the video.
if you
I think
remember.
it's on SB Nation's channel or it's on his private one. His videos are kind of scattered.
But anyway, yeah. So that's the rule changes. Any more thoughts on those?
I don't like kickoffs.
Yeah, I don't either. But we're stuck with them at least for now.
Yup.
So, all right, moving on. I just threw this next item in here. Did you hear the interview that Matt LaFleur did with around the NFL?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, he he did a brief interview with their podcast, and I listened to that, and God, it scared the hell out of me because because Chris Wessling asked him point blank, "Will we see more Aaron Jones this year?" And LaFleur's answer was, "Yeah, we're really excited to feature him, but I think it's important that you have multiple good running backs, et cetera, et cetera." Basically, verbatim the McCarthy thing. And that scared me a lot.
Oh
So,
no, it does. That sounds like he didn't learn anything from Dion Lewis.
yeah, he didn't learn anything from Dion Lewis. He didn't learn from McCarthy's mistakes, and I'm worried. But we'll
But
we'll see.
there hasn't
I'm
been a
I'm
single
going to
snap
give
yet.
right
You know
exactly. I'm
that
gonna give
that skepticism
Lafleur a
benefit of
chance.
doubt.
I'm
But
like I've been
that
saying.
is really funny, actually.
I'm willing to give the new coach a chance, and I'll let him actually screw up on the field before I kill him for it. Um, but
He doesn't get
yeah,
leave.
I
Yeah.
am I am
As
definitely
opposed to Freddie
scared.
Kitchens over here, who's like saying like, "Man, so we got this really good roster. So what?" Like he literally
Yeah,
just tells the media, "I don't give a shit." Like
I
you
love
got
Freddie
that's
Kitchens.
such a night and day, dude. I want a coach like that who's like, "I don't give a shit if people are hyping us up. We're still just a football team and we need to win these games." That is the mentality you need to be as a leader.
Yeah, I love Kitchens. I wish that
Freddie
the
Kitchens is
Packers had.
fantastic.
I
Oh
wish the
man.
Packers had managed to get Freddie
From
Kitchens.
name to brand, everything about this man is so perfect in the media
Yeah.
right now.
So anyway, we don't need to spend any more time on that. Just I'm a scared Packers fan. Um,
I mean, to be fair, uh, I have. I think Jacksonville is such an enigma right now that if I talk about anything related to Jacksonville, I'm just gonna be like, I have no idea how well we're gonna do. I just hope it's well.
mhm.
Like, I really do not know if we're gonna be a good team. We need to draft a wide receiver. That's all I know. And until draft day comes, I don't care. I do not care. I do not think we could get a receiver in free agency now. Because the ones that were there, they're gone.
Mhm.
They went to Oakland and Cleveland, man. They're gone.
Yeah. Well,
We need a wide
anyway.
receiver one that's a top 10 in the league, and instead we're gonna have Marquise Lee coming off like an ACL injury.
Well, anyway. Moving on then. Jordan Howard. He got traded.
Eagles, right?
Yeah, so
Yep.
he is no longer going to be with the Bears.
That's a
He's
good
been
move.
traded.
He was not productive on that offense.
Yeah, honestly, it's a move that makes sense for both sides.
He gets one more chance because
The Philly needed running back depth, and they have another guy who can run between the tackles
where
now.
did Jay Ajayi go? He's still in Philly, right?
Is he still around? That's a good question.
Because he's really good still. I
Just
still
dropped my
think
phone on the floor.
he's. If you're rotating Howard and a Jay Ajayi, uh, and Corey Clement, right? Those are the three starters. I know
No,
that
Jay Ajayi is still on the market. He's still a free agent.
that's interesting because I
Yeah.
mean, he did get an injury, and now he's starting to age, right? But
Yeah.
if you're gonna rotate two guys in and out, is it Corey Clement and Jordan Howard then that they're gonna the two?
Yeah, and Wendell Smallwood's in the mix, and if Darren Sproles doesn't retire, maybe Sproles too.
Smallwood is fine. Darren Sproles, that's okay. I like the guy, but like
But yeah,
realistically speaking, he's not gonna be the guy
the
getting.
Eagles, the Eagles are the definition of a running back by committee team. Like, and they do it better than anybody over the last few
Dude,
years.
they had Smallwood starting and still were able to have a
They were
solid run
still
game.
able to have a productive
They
offense
had like
with
3 injuries that were season ending to like three
yeah.
different backs.
They I trust the Eagles to do well with this backfield, and it's a good move to acquire Jordan Howard.
Because the Bears weren't going to
Plus,
use him well.
They acquired him for a 6th-round pick in 2020.
Yeah, they did. They traded nothing.
That's basically nothing. So, and like to be fair, the Bears were going to probably cut him anyway to save money. So,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
Cohen's just been way more productive.
yeah, Cohen is a better
Everybody
fit
thought
for
Howard
Nagy.
was going to be like a top 3 back last year.
Yeah. Um. Well, it was the year before really that he was supposed to be really good and just wasn't because Tariq Cohen showed up.
No, he was good. He had 1,000 yards on the ground the year before.
I don't remember. He was on my fantasy team and was a big disappointment one year, and it wasn't last year. So
Hmm.
anyway, um,
I can look
anyway,
up his stats real quick if you want.
sure. And for the record, that 6th-round pick could become a 5th-round pick based on conditions, probably having to do with like uh, how well Jordan Howard does in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So it could be a 5th-rounder, but that's still very
All
little.
right. So in 2016 and 2017, he ran for over 1,000 yards for both
Okay,
seasons. In
he was very
2016, he
inconsistent
didn't
though.
score like any touchdowns. That was the thing.
Hmm.
He had like 1,300 yards but 6 touchdowns overall.
Yeah.
Uh, and his productivity on the ground went down in 2017. But I mean, he's solid. He is still a really nice specimen to have. I don't think that the Eagles are losing out at all with this.
No, good move for the Eagles. They always make these sorts of moves that just make a lot of sense. I trust that front office. So moving on though, the Cowboys acquired Robert Quinn from the Dolphins, which is a good move because they need a pass rusher, especially because the DeMarcus Lawrence thing is starting to look kind of ugly.
Yeah.
With because they've tagged him now for the 2nd straight year, and he hasn't signed it, and there's been no progress in contract talks. So really, the Robert Quinn signing to me just looks like more of an insurance move for the Cowboys.
Wow. Robert Quinn. What position is that?
Well, he's a pass rusher. I think he's a defensive
Yeah.
tackle or defensive
Oh,
end rather.
he is the Dolphins guy, right?
Right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was with the Rams and had a good season or two with the Rams, but he's been beat up over the last few years.
I remember
Um,
him. Okay.
but anyway, yeah, it's the DeMarcus Lawrence thing is kind of scary for for the Cowboys at
There's
this
no
point.
way they're gonna keep him. I don't think they're
Well,
gonna keep Sean Lee either, right?
I don't know. I
There's
mean, it seems like they definitely want to keep DeMarcus Lawrence, but there's
Yeah.
just been no progress in contract talks. And this,
Jimmy is such a weird negotiator. That as an owner, it seems throughout his career he just makes a lot of bonehead decisions.
you're referring to Jerry, right? Not
Yeah.
Jimmy? Okay.
I said Jimmy, didn't I?
Yeah. For a
Well,
second, I was thinking Jimmy Haslam and the Browns, but um, yeah. Anyway, so we'll see, but this Demarcus Lawrence thing could end up going like the Le'Veon Bell route, where he just sits out a year and all that stuff. Yeah, it could get really
yeah.
ugly.
I don't think he'll do something like that.
I kind of doubt it at this point, but it's within the realm of
Everyone saw what
possibility.
happened to Le'Veon Bell. No one won there.
I would argue Le'Veon Bell won, and the Jets won.
The Jets did win. Okay, I'll say the Jets are the winner. But Le'Veon Bell, remember, Le'Veon Bell wins if he just wants to win championships. If that's his
Oh.
only goal. If money isn't a factor and he just wants to win championships. But does not sound like his only goal was to win the Super Bowl.
I think his goal was just to get out of Pittsburgh.
That also,
And
that culture in Pittsburgh. I'm really surprised Mike Tomlin still has a job. All things
I
considered.
kind of am too. But anyway, moving on from that, we'll keep an eye on Demarcus Lawrence, obviously, as time moves on. But the next item is it came out this past week that John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers,
Mm-hmm.
had opportunities to trade for Odell Beckham or Antonio Brown and passed them up.
Well, that man,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
another team where all they need is one stellar receiver, and they're golden.
see the Brown thing, I can understand why they were scared away because he's just a crazy person.
And also, I mean,
But
OBJ is insane either.
well, no, but I think what Lynch had said was because the 49ers have such a high pick in the first round, the Giants would have wanted to get that pick away from them and they weren't willing to part with it, and that's the reason that they didn't make a move for Beckham.
I can respect that.
And the logic of it makes sense. But think about
The
it. The
outcome.
49ers have what? The second overall pick, is that it?
Yeah,
Let me verify that quick.
I think that they were second. Yeah, they're second. Cardinals are
Yeah.
first, and then it's Jets, Raiders, Bucks, Giants, and then
Okay.
Duval.
So the the thing is,
They would have moved
yes,
down.
yes, you have the second overall pick, but you're not in a position to take a quarterback. So that's out. So maybe they're looking to get like a top pass rusher, maybe Nick Bosa or whatever. And I understand that. But it's still a gamble with any player you're drafting. You don't know what they're going to do in the NFL, even the top prospects.
Yeah.
Whereas with Odell Beckham, you already know what he can do in the NFL because he's been in the NFL and been a very productive receiver, and he makes your team instantly better. It seems like to me, and this is an outsider's perspective, obviously, I'm not a general manager, and maybe I would think differently if I had the information that they have. But to me, it seems like a great player like Odell Beckham is worth any price.
Um, what I will say about Odell Beckham is he made Eli Manning worse. Every
No, I
the
think time made Eli Manning worse.
if you actually, I've watched a lot of Eli Manning film because I was curious as to why the fuck they kept him, and what I have determined is that he's gonna be a better quarterback without Odell Beckham because he didn't treat Odell Beckham like other receivers. He doesn't throw risky balls unless if it's to Odell Beckham. He doesn't throw balls into tight windows or jump balls 50-50s. He doesn't do any of that with any other receiver except Odell Beckham, who consistently didn't deliver for him.
Mm-hmm.
He would refuse to go to checkdowns only when Odell Beckham was on the field. When you take Odell Beckham out of the equation for Eli, he is a solid Tom Brady like quarterback. He's not bad by any stretch. It's really
Okay.
insane how accurate and how solid and how smart Eli Manning is when Odell Beckham isn't on the field.
Now, I disagree with most of what you just said, but counterpoint. Even if all of that is true, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Eli Manning. So if you acquire if you acquire Odell
Correct.
Beckham, he's gonna make Jimmy G better. Like, come on.
Uh I'm really skeptical about OBJ. I want to see on the field with another quarterback because
Yeah. Well, and
he's someone different. The thing is he's so talented, but he makes simply put like the worst decisions sometimes. Like
well, and
he puts his hands in places where you just need. I could put my hands in the triangle position, where, and I could catch the ball just as easy as he. But he tries to go for things that don't make sense in the current situation. He goes for leaps and balls that are like 4 feet off the ground. It's like, why?
well,
They're right to
the
his
nice
chest cavity, and he tries to avoid them. He doesn't like getting hit either. That's a big thing about Odell Beckham. He will not go for a ball that he will get hit by. he'll just let it fall.
Well, the good thing is we're going to get to see him play with a different quarterback because he's with Baker now.
Yeah.
So we'll see how all of that works out. So moving on, the last news item that I have here is the Raiders apparently. So I really only included this because we have the Raiders predicted to be just so bad, but they continue to bring in veterans who are going to buy them a couple of wins. Because they brought in now Isaiah Crowell, the running back, and Brandon Marshall, not the wide receiver, but the linebacker from Denver. And I feel like
they got Isaiah Crowell.
Yeah, they got the Crow. So like Crowell is not going to be a great runner for them, but he might have a couple of good games for him, which is enough to buy them a couple wins. And
dude, there might be a game where he has like 150 yards on the ground.
Yeah, I mean,
Antonio Brown the next game gets like 200.
Well, like Crowell is the type of guy who, at this point in his career, he might get like 150 yards in one game and finish the season with like 300 yards.
Like, yeah, he might be a 500, 600 yard guy, but
yeah, but and then Brandon Marshall, like he's not a great linebacker, but he's solid, and they need just solid players right now on their team.
I have to say they're updating properly.
Defense.
They're upgrading properly.
Yeah, so I mean, these sorts of moves
really good.
These sorts of moves that they've been making really screw with our prediction.
I will say that they got rid of Jared Cook. That's actually a lot bigger than I think people would realize. I think Jared Cook is really, really good.
Yeah.
He was a lot of their offense last year.
Well, and in fairness, though, that's because they just didn't really have anybody else.
All right. So Oakland has Antonio Brown and that one other guy as a receiver, right?
Tyrell Williams.
What happened to oh yeah. I am so dumb.
Jordy retired. He's all over the thumbnail.
Jordy. He went to Dallas. I don't know why I can't forget his name.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I forget that happened. I just completely forgot. I was like, wait, why is this not being talked about? That's right, because it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So forget that.
All right. So that's the end of the news items, but I have one more thing that I wanted to just read. So let me pull it up here quick. Nope, those are all my pictures of Jordy Nelson. Okay, here we go. So are you ready with the dramatic music?
Oh, that's right. Oh, let's hit that play button here. All right, okay. I'm playing it.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, the Packers cut Antonio Morrison, a linebacker, which was so important that we didn't even mention it. But I'm just going to read aloud this article from, it was written by Brian Jones of 24/7 Sports. So, here we go. Antonio Morrison is glad the month of March is over. 1 week before Morrison was cut by the Packers, the veteran linebacker was cited for interfering with a flight from Milwaukee to Las Vegas. Michael Cohen of The Athletic obtained documents from the incident, and it said that the flight attendant questioned passengers about the placement of a bag under a vacant seat. Morrison acknowledged it was his bag, and the reason he did it was the fact that someone placed a bag under his seat. However, Morrison did not admit to it at first. "Fuck you," Morrison allegedly said, via Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. "You don't own this plane. I can do whatever I want." The pilot took the plane back to the airport gate, and Morrison then had to speak to a deputy sheriff. Morrison stated he did not feel he needed to explain why his bag was under an empty seat, and thought the explanation about whose bag it was good enough, the police report states. During this time, Morrison was cursing casually with me, and could not complete a sentence without the word fuck. It is unclear if the Packers knew about the incident before cutting, but Cohen did say that Morrison entered a no-contest plea this week. Morrison came to the Packers after a solid 2017 season with the Colts, etc., etc., etc. And
Jeez.
don't need to read the rest. So I just
Jesus Christ! What?
felt...
That came out of nowhere. What was that?
Yes.
What was that? I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know what you were gonna like. I was prepared for anything, but that still fucking surprised me. What?
Yeah. So anyway, I just felt that was
That
worth
was the best news we've ever covered on this podcast.
Better than Chris Blewett.
Oh man. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Like it's just like
it's so
reading it described like that. It just seems like such a stupid thing to get like to get in trouble over.
Like, he literally just said, "Fuck you! I can do what I want. I'm putting this bag under an empty seat."
And like this whole thing started because he put his bag under an empty seat and didn't want to, like, was asked about it and just was a dick. Like that's
he
if he had just like said, yeah, that one's mine, somebody else had their bag under my seat, I feel like nothing would have happened.
Yeah, it would have been shoulda, woulda, coulda, I guess. What the fuck? That makes me have such a grin right now. Jeez.
Anyway, I felt that was worth sharing on the podcast. I read that yesterday and I was laughing out loud. So
yeah,
I felt I had to bring that to the masses.
No, all be like that's magical.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's pretty much all I have for news. So was there anything else you wanted to say about any of those topics before we move on?
I don't have anything in particular to talk about now.
Okay, so
I will say, I will reiterate that was the greatest usage of dramatic music I have ever had.
Yeah. That was fun. This is like last week with the safety carousel where I just laughed through the entire thing when I listened to it. I'm going to probably be laughing through this whole thing.
Yeah, cuz the music starts getting like really dramatic as he gets like I like how the song is also that one song, the da 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 da. Like I've heard this song so many times, yeah. You know.
So anyway, let's move on to a discussion about Des Bryant. So let me preface this by reading a text exchange that we had a few days ago.
You're gonna leak our DMs? Wow.
Yes. Well, hang on. Let me scroll to it here. So randomly at 10:40 a.m. on Saturday, Bryce said, "Hey, is Des still on the Saints?" And I looked it up. And at 10:51,
I'm too lazy to.
Right, exactly. So you just outsource your Googling to me at this point.
I do.
I replied, "He's a free agent. He wants to return to the Saints, and they are undecided about him." You said, "I see." Then I said, "Bottom line is that he's a washed-up receiver who still believes he's a valuable asset. There's a reason he was a free agent for half of last season." Then Bryce says, "We'll see. I'm skeptical." I said, "It would make a good podcast discussion." And Bryce said, "I agree."
Yeah.
And here we are.
As you can see in texts, I don't talk a lot unless if I really get passionate about something. So I'm the type of person where there'll be a long box of text sent to me and I'll just say K.
By the way, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but one more news thing that I just remembered. Did you hear about the prank that Sean McVay pulled on Cliff Kingsbury?
I did not, but did you hear about the prank Tom Brady did to Twitter?
Yeah, I did. I heard about that one. That was whatever. But
whatever? I thought it was great. It was golden.
The Kingsbury thing apparently McVay and Kingsbury and Patrick Mahomes all had dinner together at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and McVay had a friend uh, who he changed the friend's name in his phone to Roger Goodell, and then had the friend text him and be like, "You guys know you're not supposed to be at dinner together. This is tampering. Uh, this could end up costing you guys draft picks." And showed that to Cliff Kingsbury, and so Cliff Kingsbury thought he was going to be losing like the number one overall pick and stuff like that. And anyway, so
Jesus Christ, that's so
again,
cruel.
it is cruel, but it's hilarious also. So I figured that was worth mentioning as well. Though I did
Wow.
forget to write it into my news items. Okay, but anyway, back to Dez. I'll let you begin because you clearly said less in the text exchange. So I'll give you the first opportunity to speak.
So, watching Des play in his career, of course, it's been a little bit, but I've never thought that he had a lot of drop off. I still think that he's a solid wide receiver 1 or 2 on any team, and that honestly, hearing that he's still in the market, I want him in Jacksonville.
Mm.
The way I think he's a
Jacksonville's a
really
team
nice
that
route
could use
runner.
him.
I don't think people give him enough credit for that, and that's always going to be valuable. I mean, I don't think he's anywhere close to what like people like Adam Thielen do anymore, but he can deliver on an offense when given the chance. I don't see
Mm.
why he would have drop off. I think the reason why he wasn't picked up was because he's not good for locker rooms. And I think people overplay the fact that people aren't good for locker rooms. Granted, I mean, I don't have the best experience in this department, but somebody saying fuck you in a locker room can't be that bad.
Well, I mean, it's got to be more
Obviously, yeah.
desirable than saying "fuck you" on an
Uh,
airplane.
uh,
But
God.
but anyway, yeah, I agree with some of what you said about Dez. I think that yes, teams do overplay the fact that he's a bad locker room guy, and he might be a bad locker room guy, but I agree with you that shouldn't be the only factor. The other thing though is I think that he's just not the same player that he used to be. His so he didn't play all year last year, and that's a red flag immediately. But even before that, the pretty much since Dak Prescott took over the Cowboys offense, Des Bryant just his production dropped off severely. And initially it was kind of like, well, this is Ezekiel Elliott's offense now.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't have Dak featured, Dez featured so heavily, is that Dak Prescott is not the right type of quarterback to utilize a number one receiver. But that argument kind of went out the window when the Cowboys acquired Amari Cooper, and suddenly he's just going off and having monster games. And it's like, oh yeah, Dak is a good quarterback who can throw to good receivers. Like, the fact is that Dez just wasn't the same player anymore those last couple of years, and now he's a full year removed from football, and it's like I don't
I
really
think
know
that'd be
what he
good for Des,
brings.
though. I think having a year off is good. I
I
think
mean, perhaps,
everything that's happened to him is putting him in a good place when it
but
comes to
to be
being on a
fair though,
football team. And his mentality had to have shifted.
yeah, to be fair though, and I mean, it might be good for him from sort of a mental, emotional type standpoint in terms of being a bad locker room guy. Maybe that
How many
improves.
years is he on in the league? 8?
I don't know. That's a good question. Let me look that up real quick.
I'm gonna look up draft. He was drafted. He's on his 10th season.
Yeah.
He's
I
30
mean,
years
he's
old.
he's 30 years old now, so you know, it's The thing is, I just don't know what he has left in the tank, and is it worth it for a team to bring him in at this point for what
Yes.
production he might give you compared to the headaches he might give you?
Yeah.
And I would say that it's really only worth it for teams that are desperate for wide receivers at this point. So,
I think that 49ers and Jacksonville are the two prime candidates, in my opinion.
see, the 49ers, I think, can get by without a number one receiver because they have a lot of talented running backs and they have a great tight end. So they're a team that I think could get by without it. Jacksonville kind of makes sense. That's a good fit, I think, where they just need
Even
somebody who
culturally,
can
because
catch the
like
ball.
Jacksonville's already a team. Like if they're winning, it's gonna be great. If they're losing, oh man.
Yeah, I agree. Like if the Jaguars get off to a bad start, that locker room is going to explode no matter what. So adding Dez to the mix probably wouldn't make it any worse. Um, but yeah, other than that though, I can't really think of another team that would be a good fit for him.
Giants.
No, not the Giants. They're going to
He
be a
would be
bad team.
really good with the Giants or the Redskins.
Mm, I disagree.
The
Dez
Bills
can't
even.
play for Dez cannot play for a bad team. The Bills maybe make sense, but they have acquired some more wide receivers, and they'll probably target some in the draft
Oh
too to
yeah, no,
build
I don't
around
think
Josh
he'll go
Allen.
to a team like that. But because I that's why I think he should go to Jacksonville. I want him in Jacksonville. I believe in
See,
him.
now, if you recall, and this would be a totally different story if Jerry Jones hadn't just like really screwed Dez over. Because last offseason, they took forever to decide what they were going to do about Dez Bryant. And they waited until like all the teams with wide receiver needs acquired wide receivers to actually release Dez, kind of like the Morgan Burnett situation this year.
Yeah.
And it really screwed Dez over. And initially, when he got released, he was like, I want to stay in the NFC East. I just want to play for an NFC East team. And then one after another, the Eagles, Giants, and Redskins were like, yeah, no thanks. And then he was like, well, all right, I'm considering some other teams. And he like named a few, and all of those teams were like, no. And then it was like, okay, yeah, I'll just play for anybody. And then nobody took him until halfway through the year. He went to the Saints and then tore his Achilles.
Yeah, that's a big thing though. When he tore his Achilles, that's the only
Yeah,
thing I really would say
that's
is
and that is the other red flag that I didn't mention is that he is coming off a a very serious lower body injury on the wrong
that
side of
happened in
30.
practice, which is like that's why I think there isn't any footage of it,
Hmm.
happening. That's widespread, so it's like it's not really fresh in anyone's mind that he literally had a really he just had one of the worst injuries you can have as a receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he was already, I think, slower than he had been for many years, and I don't think that an Achilles tear helps.
Doesn't help. No, you're right about that. It sure as hell does not bode
Yeah.
well.
So I mean, I like I said, I kind of agree with your point that that Jacksonville might be a good fit for him, but I don't know what he offers to a team positively at this point. Actually, thinking about it, Detroit might be another fit for him. Um,
Yeah.
they need wide receiver help
Megatron
badly.
2.0.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's
Um,
funny because people are saying this Moncrief guy, right? Dante Moncrief, is that his name?
yeah,
No, that's the Colts receiver. It's on
yeah.
the Steelers now. I mean,
Who are you talking about?
the guy in the draft, DK Metcalf.
Oh, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, Metcalf. Yeah, that's the guy who I also
Did you
want
say?
Jacksonville to go for because they have a seventh
I'm
overall
sorry.
pick.
I have to pause here. Did you say DK Meat Cow?
Quite possibly, I did. Like I just kind of spew out words and hope that I'm right.
Yeah, that's fair. And I've known you long enough to understand that, but I still have to call you out every now and then.
No, no, no. It's fine. It's fine. I do not hold any gripes or anything when people look at me like, why did you say it like that? Like you could have just said it right, but you chose to say it wrong. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's me.
and like other teams with wide receiver needs just don't make a lot of sense. Like the Dolphins have a need at wide receiver, obviously, but they're going to be a bad team, and they know that going in. So why would you bring in a locker room cancer? Like it just doesn't make sense. It might make them a little more fun, but then again, that'd just be a media circus.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to play for a team that has a chance to win and needs wide receivers and doesn't mind having a locker room cancer. And there just aren't any teams that fit that bill aside from Jacksonville.
Uh, maybe, maybe Jets.
Mm,
That'd be a. We
I
say
think
that
the
they're a winning
Jets.
team.
I think the Jets are actually pretty happy with the wide receiver group that they have right
I
now.
agree, but I'm saying it's possible too. This is gonna sound really dumb too, but the Patriots.
Yeah, anytime you have a aging veteran wide receiver, they get connected to the Patriots. And I kind of I, like you said, it does kind of make some sense. It adds up, but I don't
I
know.
don't
They
see Belichick.
considering they didn't show any interest in him last year when they were really
Yep.
desperate for wide receivers, I don't
Yep.
think they'll show interest in him this time around.
They have no reason to. But I'm saying that if we're looking at possibilities,
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else on Bryant? I mean, I feel like we've thoroughly covered this topic.
if he goes to I mean, I'm saying if he goes there, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
If he goes to Jacksonville.
Well, anyway, let's move on to our other discussion topic for today, which I suggested in podcast episode 1. We briefly mentioned the whole Josh Rosen debacle um, in Arizona and what's going to happen there, and you know that the whole question is: are they going to stick with Rosen, or are they going to try to trade him and then draft Kyler Murray or
No.
somebody else? But it seems like it would be Kyler Murray.
They are not getting Kyler Murray.
Well,
I do not believe it because I Josh Rosen's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback, and he just has some fundamental problems that are easily coachable.
so
He doesn't plant his feet correctly, I don't think, personally. And he doesn't he throws to the right side of the field really poorly right now. And that's common for quarterbacks, especially young ones, but it's not something that is it's not a problem if you have the right coach behind him. And I
now
think they'll
I
be
agree that
fine.
I agree with you that I'm willing to give Josh Rosen another chance, but the question really is what should the Cardinals do? And it, it kind of reminds me of actually the Brett Favre situation. Um, now every Packer fan who's around my age, I imagine, has grown up hearing the story of how the Packers acquired Brett Favre, and essentially the story is this: that he was drafted by the Falcons, and the
Threw a
coaching
pass to
staff.
himself.
Well, that wasn't until he came to Green Bay, actually, but he the coaching staff had zero confidence in Favre. They didn't like him. They didn't want to play him. And what's funny is that they actually got back more than they spent on Favre. Um, they drafted him with the first pick of the second round, and they got a Packers first round pick back for him.
But
But anyway, that's beside the point. The point is that the Packers liked him because they had scouted him in the draft process, and they missed on him because the Falcons took him a pick ahead of the Packers. And the Packers front office decided that they still liked him, and when it was apparent that the Falcons didn't want him after one season, the Packers reached out and traded for him. Now, it seems like Josh Rosen is in a similar situation where in this case it's a completely new coaching staff that doesn't necessarily believe in him. And the glowing things that Cliff Kingsbury said about Kyler Murray at the coaches meetings make it seem to me like they are definitely looking into that possibility stronger than I thought before. Like I really thought it was very unlikely that they would move on from Josh Rosen after only 1 year. But
yeah,
after hearing the way that Kingsbury talks about Murray, I
I
gotta
mean,
think it's
Kyler Murray
possible.
is he's far above every other quarterback in the draft right now. If we're gonna talk about my personal rankings for quarterbacks in the draft, it's gonna differ from everyone else's because I rate Gardner Minshew as number 2 on my board, and he's gonna because Gardner Minshew is a Tom Brady archetype. Few and like he's fantastic, except he has film in college that backs it up. Uh,
The
he
question is though, I mean, what should the Cardinals do? Because
keep
like
Rosen.
the the two options at this point are you keep Rosen and you're potentially going to be stuck with a quarterback that your coaching staff doesn't believe in and doesn't necessarily like, or do you go and get the guy who your coaches are excited about and want to work with, but at the cost of probably essentially you'd be trading Rosen for a lot less than what you drafted him for.
Yeah,
So is that cost
it's sunk
worth
cost
getting Kyler
fallacy, I
Murray?
guess.
It kind of is. But unfortunately, that's kind of how front offices tend to think. The good front offices don't think that way. They're okay with giving up on a player and admitting a mistake, but a lot of NFL front offices seem reluctant to admit that they've made mistakes on players in the past like
I
that, and
don't
they,
think
they
Josh
commit to their
Rosen's a
players for
mistake
too
though.
long.
I don't. I think it's too early to say that. And if
Well,
he turns into a
exactly.
bust and they don't draft Kyler Murray, people will laugh at him. But this is a hard decision, and
Here's the thing
I
though
would
is
not
that
fault a front office for getting it wrong.
I agree with you that Josh Rosen just needs more time, but the question is, uh, well, I guess the problem is that Josh Rosen needs more time, but the Cardinals don't have more time because Kyler Murray is only going to be available to them once, and it's now. And
But they don't. I mean,
they
it's not
can't.
like there's only going to be one fantastic quarterback in the next 3 years in the draft.
No, but this one is available now.
You're right, but I think Josh
And
Allen
are they
is.
are they willing to like are they going to get the number 1 overall pick again? They hope not because they want to like win and make some progress this season. So like this is their one chance to get
They
the
need
guy
other
they want.
positions, though. Their team has holes everywhere else. I don't think people realize how bad the rest of their team is.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely
So
awful.
I think that if they go and start upgrading for defense or get a threat on the outside, or because they all they have is David Johnson and they have like a 17 season Larry Fitzgerald. Wow.
But like,
Good.
okay,
I hit my mic. My bad.
here's the counter to that though is that Kyler Murray is like lauded as this dual threat quarterback. Like the guy can run. And you look at
I
what
don't care
Lamar
though. Like
you look at what Lamar Jackson did down the stretch last year with zero passing game essentially. I mean, they had no wide receivers. Their passing game was terrible,
But
and
Lamar
yet their
Jackson's a better
offense
runner
was
than
one of the
Michael
most
Vick ever
productive.
was.
What's that?
Lamar Jackson, the thing about Lamar Jackson is that he's a better runner than Michael Vick was, but he can't throw the ball. Like,
Well,
he's the
okay,
best running quarterback of all time, Lamar Jackson. He just can't
fair,
throw.
but my point is that
I know what your point is. Sorry.
my point is that if you have a guy who can run like that at the quarterback position, and you have a talented running back, obviously in David Johnson,
Oh yeah, he's so good.
you I think you can make up for deficiencies elsewhere on the roster for now because, like you said, this is such a bad team that it's going to take them multiple seasons to put together a competitive roster. In the meantime,
I don't think you need
you
a
need a
quarterback.
quarterback. You need to develop a quarterback, and you need somebody who's not going to get killed back there behind a bad offensive line. And is Josh Rosen that guy? I don't know. Kyler Murray, though, seems like he could avoid the pressure and
Oh no, I
avoid
don't.
getting killed.
I think that it's a bad idea to have like. It's a bad idea because we see what happens to Deshaun Watson.
That's
Like
true.
it was the exact same thing him, and by week 4 he was out for the season. I
Mm.
don't want to see that to Kyler, dude. That's you need to upgrade your O line. You need to upgrade everything else. You have a quarterback that can be a franchise quarterback. You just need to develop him. If you're just gonna keep cycling through the guys after 1 year after the other, your the rest of your team's gonna get so much worse. Uh, and you're just gonna keep getting a guy who you never commit to. I don't like it. I think you need to commit to Rosen and upgrades elsewhere.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to convince each other, but I
I
think
know.
bottom line, you're of the opinion that they should stick with Rosen, and I'm of the opinion that they should get the guy that they love, um, which is Murray. So the next question then is, if they do decide to move on from Rosen, um, where is he going? Because
If Rosen
there
leave,
there are a few teams that are interested,
New
and
England.
New England is of course mentioned because they need a successor to Tom Brady, but they seem like they're not interested. The last report that I saw, anyway. Um, the teams that were interested were reportedly the Giants and the Chargers.
Chargers makes so much sense. Okay, I like that one.
Yeah,
Josh
the
Rosen goes
Chargers.
to the Chargers. Yep, I'm sold. I'm so sold on that. Actually, holy crap, that would have been so good.
And didn't he? Where did Josh Rosen play college again?
Um,
Wasn't he?
I Josh Rosen college
Because I thought it was UCLA, but I could be
images.
wrong.
He's the UCLA guy. He's that one who has that really funny picture
So, I mean,
where he's like making the smooch face while he's throwing the ball.
you already have a lot of people there in Southern California, in LA, that love the guy, so the Chargers make a lot of sense there too. Um,
Mm,
and they need a successor to Philip Rivers, but Rivers probably has at least another year or two left in the tank, so it would give Rosen a chance to kind of develop. Um, that makes a lot of sense. The Giants also make sense because it's apparent that Eli Manning is on his last legs. Um,
I think Eli Manning has 2 more years. And I think I'm the
I
only person who thinks he's going to last that long.
well, I think you and the Giants front office are alone on that front. Um,
I don't think
the
he's going
other
to be
team,
great. I think he's going to be 2 years great. That's not that good, but it's good enough.
the other team that I thought of that, and there haven't been any reports that suggested there's any interest there, but I thought of this on my own, is the Saints should be very interested. Um, because Drew Brees, the way he sort of fell off towards the end of last season, um, I have a feeling he doesn't have much longer in this league. As much as I love Drew Brees as a
Everyone
player,
likes Drew Brees, but he might
I,
only be a one Super Bowl guy. And for Packer
I just
fans, Drew Brees' career is very scary to look at
yeah.
because you're
Well, and
looking at Aaron Rodgers mimicking that to a T.
yeah, but Anyway, setting that aside for the moment, I think that the Saints should be interested in acquiring this guy and just seeing what they can do. Um, like they have Teddy Bridgewater right now, and he's a fine backup quarterback, but I don't think that they see him as their future franchise quarterback.
Oh yeah, no, no.
And they should seriously be thinking about trying to acquire Breeze's successor. And I feel like Josh Rosen makes some sense for them. Let him develop behind an all-time great like Drew Brees.
Yeah,
So that's sort of my thought on that. The Giants and Chargers are the teams that have been whispered about. The Saints are my own suggestion. And honestly, I feel like the Chargers make the most sense out of anybody
yeah.
to go get him.
I just think that they would develop better than Sean Payton would. Maybe Sean Payton would be also a really nice guy to have with Josh Rosen, but I don't know. Sean Payton doesn't seem like the type of guy who develops quarterbacks.
No, he he seems like the kind of guy who gets thrown in there with an already great quarterback and then they come up with a great offense.
He seems like the type of guy who can get who yeah, like he already has a great mind there and then he's really good at working with another guy who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So, all right. That's the Cardinals number 1 overall pick discussion, and the where should Josh Rosen go if they move on from him discussion. Um,
I think that we're ready to move on to my favorite part of the show,
okay, yeah.
which is the
Yeah. I don't have anything else to talk about, so I think
I
we can
assume
move
that
on.
we're on the same page here when it comes to talking about our stellar predictions
Mm,
that happened
yeah.
2 months ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So yeah, let's talk. Today we are talking, of course, about the AFC East. Um, so in alphabetical order, we will be beginning with the Buffalo Bills.
all right, and they're on screen right now. Their 6-10 record in all its glory.
Yep. So breaking it down here, we have them getting swept by the Patriots, splitting with the Dolphins and Jets. Then we have them losing at home to the Ravens and beating the Bengals and Broncos at home. And we have them losing all their road games in conference. They lose to the Steelers, Browns, and Titans. Then they lose at home to the Eagles. They beat the Racists at home and the G Men on the road. And then they lose to the Cowboys in
This
Dallas.
looks pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
there's a few
maybe they
results that.
don't beat the Jets, but
Yeah, that was one that I was wondering about why we decided on that split.
I
Um, the the other couple of results that I wasn't really sure. Do the Ravens really go into Buffalo and win? It's We're pretty low on the Ravens this year, so who knows?
yeah, they go on the Buffalo one. I think Buffalo's the type of team that would lose to one of the most predictable offenses in the league.
Yeah, and do the Titans really beat the Bills at home? Um, that's the other one.
I mean, do we have enough faith in the Bills to beat the Titans away? I don't think we had
Yeah,
enough faith there. I think it's a coin flip, but it's like
a lot of these are coin flips, and that's the problem.
a lot of these teams
And
kind of suck.
because we did this, 2 months ago,
Before free agency, before any of that.
it's hard to remember exactly what our thought process was on any of these picks.
However, I mean, for most of them, we I mean,
But yeah, I for the most part, if we were doing this again today, I'd be pretty comfortable letting this ride.
yeah,
I'd
I think
I'd
that our
question, like I
logic
said,
with
I'd
the
question a
Titans
couple, but I'd
was
let it
that
ride.
because the Bills are away, they're probably going to lose.
Hmm.
We just kind of, when it's even like that, like home field advantage, I guess, takes all.
Yeah. except for when the Chargers are involved.
Yeah, it's
So
that is like the only team. And then there's one team with super home field advantage, and that's the Broncos. And we just kind of go with that. Some of them have
yeah.
more so than others, but
All right.
I mean that's how
So
it's been.
so yeah, 6-10 record for the Bills. What did they finish this year? What was their final
6 and
record?
10.
Were they 6-10? Really?
6 and 10.
Huh. Okay, so a year of zero progress, I suppose. Um,
Yeah,
interesting.
that makes a lot of sense.
So if they go 6-10 again, do you think that Sean McDermott is under any? Do you think he's on the hot seat?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
That's
don't think,
unfortunate because I actually like Sean McDermott and I kind of like what the Bills have done in the last couple years.
but they haven't made a winning team.
No,
The
they
only
haven't yet, but
they made
they
1 9 and 7 team with Tyrod Taylor, which was impressive in itself. But
yes. I
why did
want
you
to
have Tyrod
see.
Taylor in the first place? Is the real question.
I actually kind of do want to see the Bills succeed a little bit. Like I'd like to see them get out of the basement. Um,
Uh, my brother's
and
a big Bills fan, so
and I actually think they have a better chance to do that than this prediction might indicate. Like I could see them beating some of these teams we have them losing to. Like I could see them going into Pittsburgh and upsetting the Steelers. I mean, why not?
I could
You
see
know,
them.
I could see them stealing a game from the Patriots. I could see them,
I
beating the
really
Titans
don't.
on the road.
I think they
What's
could
that?
sweep the Dolphins.
Yeah, probably.
That's
I
where I
mean,
think a win in the division could come from.
this team could end up going 10-6 instead of 6-10, but
No, I wouldn't say. I think they could go 8 and 8,
more
but I
likely
don't
they
think they
would.
give. I don't give them like even a 5% chance. Not even. I don't give them much of a chance to go and get 10 wins out of this schedule. I still
Hmm.
think it's pretty gross what they have to play against.
Yeah, but anyway, that's the Bills. So let's move on to the Dolphins. So you want to get that on screen?
Yeah, I got him on screen right now.
Okay. So the Dolphins, they look like a very ugly team. So we have them getting
You know, they get
swept by.
uglier by the day, and I'm really glad that we predicted them to just
Yeah.
nosedive, much like a
So
dolphin.
nice. Um, we have them getting swept by the Patriots and the Jets. They split with the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then we have them losing to the Ravens and Chargers at home, beating the Bengals at home, losing all their road games. Holy crap. All their road games to the
I think
Steelers,
that's
Browns,
accurate.
Colts, G Men, and Cowboys. We have them stealing a game from the racists at home and
Beating the
losing
Bills.
to the Eagles.
I think that this is completely accurate. I'm so happy. I might
Yeah.
even give them less wins if we did it again.
Well, who would you take it away from? You take it away from the Bills, I guess.
Bengals.
Oh, you think the Bengals beat them?
I think Andy Dalton would. I mean, those Bengals have those really weird games. You know,
The Bengals are a hard team to figure out. I think we mentioned that when we talked about that division a couple weeks ago.
they got rid of
Um,
Vontez, but they're never gonna. They're not gonna have a defense. So I think if
yeah,
Andy Dalton's able to get 500 yards a game, they can win games.
I mean they couldn't even find anybody to coach their defense until almost the combine. So,
Yeah,
um,
they're a wreck on that side of the ball. I think they're a fine offense. They got a lot of weapons. They got Eifert. They got Boyd. They got that really fast guy. They got Green. They got who's the running back again?
Joe Mixon.
Yeah, he's really good too. Like their offense looks really nice. It looks like a playoff offense. Their defense looks. But anyway, Dolphins bad team. I don't know if we need to talk about them anymore. Hello.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, got
No,
distracted.
no, you're fine. I actually am really excited for this next one.
Yeah. No, my brother texted me something that made me laugh just now.
I see. But yeah, I have the Jets on
Anyway,
screen, I guess now. If you don't,
okay, so yeah, let's move on to the Jets.
yeah,
Um, so the Jets are the opposite of the Bills, I suppose. The Bills we had going 6-10. The Dolphins, by the way, 3-13. I don't know if we
yeah,
actually.
we it showed on screen, and we did mention the 3 wins.
I know, but this is an audio podcast,
It,
so for people who are not looking at the screen. But anyway,
yeah,
um, the Jets we have going 10-6. So they split with the Patriots and Bills. They sweep the Dolphins.
they could win
Then
more games. They're so good.
then they beat the Browns, Steelers, and Raiders at home, and they lose at the Ravens. Or excuse me, they win at the Ravens and they lose. Why do we have them losing to the Bengals on the road? I don't know. And
Why did we
and they
have?
lose to the Jags.
Remember, we have home field advantage being this like.
Well, and I think we were trying to like program in some just random results that like don't make a ton of sense. Like
And that's
I
one of
think
them.
we were at a point at that one where we're like, wow, we need the Bengals to win a game. Like, who are they gonna beat? um, but anyway, then we have them losing to the Jaguars as well, and losing at home to Dallas, beating the G-Men at home, to the Eagles on the road, and beating the Racists on the road.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, most of those results make sense to me. The Bengals one seems a little weird. I could see them winning that game,
I could see
but
him sweeping the division. I could see them being a 13-win team because Sam Darnold's gonna be so good. He's gonna
I
have
mean,
this offense is gonna be fantastic, and their defense is gonna be above average, and you're gonna just see another AFC East team that everyone wants to watch. They
it's
were in
within
a
the
period
realm.
last year where they just needed time and they needed another year. Everyone saw the potential. They have a good coaching staff. They have everything in place.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility that they could beat the Patriots twice, but I think it's more likely that
But they
they'll
lose,
end up
yeah.
that
This is
they'll
the
end up
most
ten
likely
and
record, I
six.
believe.
Um, and like some of these other results, like we gave them a win over the Steelers.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no, they're gonna beat the Steelers. No, I wouldn't give them back.
at this point now we know that it's going to be the Lev Bell revenge game, so that's
The Browns, maybe they don't win that one.
yeah. Um, I think again that was just two teams that we're really high on, and we gave it to the Jets being at home. Um, so yeah, like I said, most of these results make sense to me, but there's a lot of potential for this prediction to get screwed up.
I agree.
All right, so should we move on to the final team, the Patriots?
It appears we should move on to Belichick.
All right. So the Patriots, we have splitting with the Jets, sweeping the Bills
The
and
opposite
Dolphins.
of the Dolphins.
Yep. Um, then we have them beating the Browns and Steelers at home and losing at home to the Chiefs.
That makes
Um,
sense. I think that at the time of the prediction, the Chiefs looked way better,
yeah,
and that's a revenge game.
it is. And then we have them going on the road to beat the Ravens, Bengals, and Texans, which I think all hold up. And we have them beating the Cowboys and G-Men at home, losing at Philadelphia, and winning at Washington. So,
Would you change anything?
well, at this point, I don't think I would. But when the actual schedule comes out, I would like to program in a random September loss for them.
If we don't already have one.
Right. So like if that Chiefs game is like week 2, then that would easily be the random September loss. But if that Chiefs game is week 14, then I probably give that to the Patriots and hand them a loss somewhere else because they just always seem to do that.
If the Browns game is early.
Yeah, if the Browns game is in September, I'd probably give it to the Browns.
Even the Steelers, like
The Steelers, I would even give like maybe even the Cowboys. Like I could see that.
yeah.
I could see them beating the Patriots early in
However,
the
if we
year.
give the Cowboys this win, that means they make the playoffs probably. But that's
Well,
a different discussion. That's a different
that's a
discussion.
different discussion. These predictions are set in
Yeah.
stone now. So I
Remember,
mean,
these are what's going to happen. We are from the future.
yeah, I think that when we made these predictions, we decided our best guess was that the Chiefs would be the early season loss, and so we just left
Yeah,
that
because we
intact.
thought that they were going to schedule it then.
Yeah. Well, and
You
at
know what
that
the
time,
first game is?
the first game.
It's Chicago versus Green Bay. That's
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
first game of the
Right.
season.
And at the time we were making these predictions, I said, the NFL schedule makers will probably make Chiefs at Patriots the week 1 game, the Thursday night opener. And I thought like that's going to be the game that the Patriots blow. But now that's not the Thursday night opener, it's Bears and Packers.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it all shakes out. So,
Mm.
yeah, as you pointed out, we have the Patriots are the anti-Dolphins and the Bills are the anti-Jets. Um, 3
I.
and 13, 10 and 6, 6 and 10,
By
13
the
and
way,
3. I did
next
those
week.
out of order.
Yeah, next week we're gonna do the last AFC division. Do you also want to discuss AFC playoffs as well?
No, let's save the playoff discussion until the very end.
Do you want to save that till right before the playoffs start next year, and we can see how awfully wrong
No,
we were?
no, we can revisit it at that point if we want, but
Oh, we should.
no,
We absolutely should. We should
let's
revisit all these predictions and mark which ones are wrong. Because you have those actual win, actual loss columns.
yep. Um and as I mentioned, when the actual NFL schedule comes out, I'm going to make a copy of this spreadsheet and reorder it so that they're all in order for
Yeah,
every team, which is going to take some time, but
it'll be a
that that
Saturday.
way that way it'll make it much easier to like actually keep track. Um so anyway, uh I think that's it for what we wanted to talk about here. We obviously have the Patriots winning the division. The Jets at 10 and 6 are playoff contenders. We don't know what all the other AFC teams do yet, so we can't say for sure. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's the AFC East. Any final thoughts on that, Bryce?
I don't have any. I don't have any final thoughts on it. I believe that I'm really high on the Jets, and I think the Jets are going to be a sleeper pick that nobody expects to be as good as they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean we're both pretty high on the Jets.
I
I
think that it's. I mean, for Dan's sake, it's going to be a turn of faith.
yeah, I I don't know. I
Dan
mean
referencing Dan Hansis from around the NFL podcast.
right. I mean, we say this now that we think the Jets are going to be good, and on paper it looks like they will, but who really knows? I mean, Sam Darnold, we think is good, but he could turn out to regress in year 2, and nobody would see that coming. So,
That would throw a lot of wrenches in our
yep.
predictions.
So, anyway, um, that's all the prediction talk for right now. So, do you want to move on?
I think it's time for music chat.
Okay. Music chat.
I don't know what we're calling this.
No, we still haven't come up with a name. Somebody in the comments suggest,
Somebody,
by whom I mean Kyle,
Kyle.
suggest a name for this segment. Um, so, all right. Would you like to go first?
On what I thought of Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Yeah.
Um, I've already listened to this album. I've always thought it was fine. Um, it has a few. Here, I'm gonna pull up the track listing right here just so I have it with me. But all in all, I'm a very big folk fan. I'm someone who likes a lot of the different art forms that comes with. So Simon and Garfunkel, I've always been a band that, although I don't religiously listen to and go back to a bunch. I've always enjoyed their music. Uh, I still believe that you got songs like "So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright," where it's such a good song. There, what I believe a lot of this album suffers from, however, is that it does seem a little too mainstreamed, and what the like energy of folk music is kind of the anti radio music. You know what I mean when I say that? Like it's supposed to kind of sound, I don't want to say bad, but if I say that, you're gonna know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I kind of
It's
know
the
what you mean.
timbre of it, and it's a very specific timbre that I actually don't think songs like Cecilia pull off well. Uh, all in all, I would give the record a 6 out of 10. I'd like it. I like it quite a bit. It's not their best record at all, but it's still a solid record in their discography. It's their last record that they made, right?
Yeah, it is.
All right.
All
But you,
right. So moving on then to the album you recommended, "You Will Never Know Why" by Sweet Trip.
oh, it's such a. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I did not like this at all.
Wow.
Yeah. It just, I mean, there were moments where I was like, okay, I can kind of get into this song for part of the song, but for the most part I was just like waiting for it to be over. I'm sorry. It just
You're
wasn't
not
my
into
thing.
that like dreamy like aesthetic as much?
I don't think so, no. I think maybe it was just the state of mind that I was in when I listened to it, but I was just hoping that it would be over soon.
It's a very happy album, I would say. It's
Yeah.
ethereal. It's very ethereal. It's not something I've heard before. Like I completely understand. It's a left field album.
Yeah, it just like I said, it just wasn't my thing. So,
If you
not
can't
much you
get
can.
with the timbre of an album, it's very hard to get with it. That's what I like to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know what the word timbre means.
Why don't you define it for our audience?
Here, I want to get their definition right, so I'm gonna look it up. But
So,
it's a
just for reference, Kyle, Bryce is going to tell you what timbre is.
timbre essentially refers to the sonic elements that distinct the music from any other form. For it's essentially what defines genres to begin with. It defines what an artist's sound is at a current moment. So like the folk twang in folk music, that little like thing that you hear in basically every single folk band, that's the timbre of folk. That's what I would say it is. And when you get into bands where you get a lot of like that like background noise, you get that like with Sweet Trip, that really like dreamy aesthetic where it seems almost surreal when you're listening to it. That's a very like dream pop shoegazy timbre. You a lot of people compare the sound that uh floats in there as hearing a vacuum cleaner in the background. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about because you've listened to it, but
Yeah.
that a lot of people basically do that comparison. But timbre, by the dictionary definition, is the character or quality of a musical sound or voice as distinct from its pitch and intensity. Which
Yeah.
it's hard to
I
pin down to words, but you hear it, and once you know what it is and you keep hearing it in different songs, it's really a good word to use.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was interesting, but it's just not my thing. That's my conclusion. So you know.
All right, I can respect that.
Also, I just wanted to mention, just for fun, that when I said yeah a minute ago, it was the first time I had said anything for a little while, and my dog got excited because she thought I was talking to her. So, um, anyway, there's that also.
All right.
And now she went back to sleep. So, um, anyway,
I guess it's.
Should we move
Would
to?
you? What would you rate it out of 10?
Oh yeah, I well, like I said, I didn't really like it, so it's probably like a 2 out of 10.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, if it's not your thing, that's I don't really fault you for
Yeah.
that.
All right. So should we move on to recommendations for next time?
Yeah. Do you have anything?
Do I have a recommendation? I do. But do you want to go first with yours?
Um, I am debating between two, so I would rather you.
Okay, well, I'm debating between three. So
You know that you got me there. All right, I'm gonna go with God, this is gonna be another one of those boring albums. I swear. But that's what I listen to. All right, I'm gonna recommend an album near and dear to my heart. It's an ambient album. I don't know if you know what that is gonna entail,
oh boy, I
but
don't.
ambient music is essentially background music.
Oh, so
Uh,
perhaps it would have made good music for the Antonio Morrison thing earlier.
no, no, it's really this is more surreal, I would say.
Okay.
So, the album I'm gonna be recommending is "Alien Observer" by Grouper. Grouper is a one man or one woman group. I have to shrink down this album. This image is really big. It's a one man, one female, singer songwriter, ambient group, and she goes by the name Liz Harris.
Okay.
Fantastic artist. Alien Observer is by far my favorite album. It's technically half of an album in a series called AIA. But I'm only gonna recommend you my favorite part of it, which is the second half, Alien Observer. Uh, she uses these very long, drawn out guitar chords,
Okay.
and it creates this such a soothing sound, in my personal opinion. Hopefully, you like it better than Sweet Trip. However,
Okay.
I think you're gonna hear a lot of similarities in the I guess, sonic elements, maybe if you're
All
really
right.
paying
Well,
attention. But yeah,
we'll see how it is, I guess.
yeah.
Um. All right. Well, I'll definitely give that a shot. So, before I go into my recommendation, I want to ask you. So, actually, let's okay. Let's see how well you know me, Bryce. Um, do you know what my favorite band is?
It's not Nirvana.
It is Nirvana.
Hey, I did it.
All right. Do you know what my favorite metal band is?
Would I if I say Black Sabbath? Am I right?
No, you're wrong. No, you're very far off. In fact, um, no, my favorite metal band is one of the first ones that I ever got into. And kind of honestly, probably the first metal band I got into. One of my friends in middle school got me started on Disturbed. Um,
Ooh.
so how familiar are you with Disturbed? Because that will feed my recommendation for you.
Now, I am familiar with Disturbed, but not in the best way. Uh, in high school, I listened to all their albums. Now that I go back to listen to some of their songs, I do not like a single song by them.
Really?
In
Okay.
fact, the worst song they've ever made is the Sound of Silence cover, and that is
Oh,
one
come
of the
on.
most disgusting covers of an. You made a song about being silent, loud. Like that's just
That's
it butchers what the song at its
I
core means, and it's
oh man.
more
I have
insulting than
to
anything.
I disagree with you so strongly. I honestly, okay. Here's the thing about covers is normally when a band covers a song, people who like the original at best will say I still like the original better, and at worst will say that was awful. They ruined a great song.
No. I mean, I would say that Mrs. Robinson cover by AJJ for me personally is better than Mrs. Robinson, although I like really both the songs fantastically.
So
However,
the thing with the Disturbed cover though of Sound of Silence, and Disturbed actually has a few different covers that are I think very good, but the Sound of Silence one, honestly, when I first heard that, it just kind of blew me away because I like the original. I like the Simon and Garfunkel song. It's probably their best known song, and I honestly think that the Disturbed version of it is better, and that's it's kind of crazy to even say that, but
I can't disagree more. That
I
it's
I think it was well done. But anyway, okay, knowing that, so you listened to them a
a
long time ago, I guess.
relatively. I listened. I mean, remember, I listened to every single one of their albums through and through.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I can tell you right now, based on what I like now, I will not like them. I
Hmm.
know what I like. It, I've listened
Okay.
to them extensively because that in
Well,
high school that's what I liked. I liked new metal. I liked post grunge. I just can't get into them anymore. I cannot get into that type of music.
okay. Well, nonetheless, I don't have another recommendation for you. So,
That's fine.
so my recommendation, I'm going to have you listen to, and I was honestly torn. So I feel like they had three albums that were all really good. Between 10,000 Fists, Indestructible, and Asylum, I thought all were really great albums. Um, and I'm going to go with Indestructible as my recommendation to you. Um, that was the song Indestructible is the first Disturbed song that I really like heard and loved. Um, and that whole album is just great.
Is
So,
it Inside the Fire, the one with the music video about that girl killing herself or something?
uh,
Or is
it
that
might be.
Stricken? I don't remember. Dude, I would remember. I was really into these guys. I was into
Yeah,
all these bands.
I honestly I don't remember either. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Indestructible as the album for you to listen to. So
All right.
maybe you'll listen to it and it'll.
I will give it a shot again, but I can tell you that the odds that I do not like this album are incredibly high.
Or maybe you'll start to reminisce about your high school days.
That can't be a good thing. That cannot be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, when you like, man, high school. Oh man, dude, these
high
albums
school
could not
sucked.
be any more different. I'm just gonna say, you
Yeah,
got this very subtle, very like poetic album, and then you get this very like riffage, like headbanging album. Because I
yep,
know the Disturb aesthetic is that every song kind of much like this is gonna be. I don't know who's gonna watch this, but if anyone knows this comparison, where I'm gonna compare new metal and bands like Disturb to trap rap, and how they both kind of serve the same musical purpose, in that they make bops, they make songs that are really catchy, and you can be like, yeah, I'm getting into this, yeah, but they just keep making the same song over and over
yeah.
and
To,
over,
to,
and I'm gonna be
I
honest. I
do get
think
your
once
point.
I get to like the fourth track, I'm gonna start groaning so much.
To be fair, Disturbed, a lot of their songs do sound very similar.
Oh, it's
I
uncanny.
will
Their
I
sound
will give
hasn't
you that.
evolved for 15 years.
Yeah, I will give you that. But anyway, I like I said, I really love Indestructible, and I love really all three of those albums that I mentioned: Indestructible, Asylum, and 10,000 Fists.
All right.
So Indestructible is
I'm
my recommendation.
surprised you don't like The Sickness more than all of them, because that was always my
Well,
favorite album, their
The
first one.
Sickness is good too, but I think I like the other three better that I mentioned.
Yeah,
And
I
Believe,
remember.
are we on the same page that we don't like Believe, the second album they made?
Uh, I liked Chevelle way more than
Mm.
any of these other bands. Like I was just like, I don't know what it was about. Like that's such a weird. I know why I like Chevelle because they have a lot of post-hardcore influence, and nowadays I only listen to like post-hardcore music really when it comes to like this type of genre.
Mm.
And when you listen to like their first two albums, I like point number one. If I ever listen to that album again, I don't know if I would hate it, but that's like the only one of all these albums that I think that if I look back and look at it, I'll be like, I could get into this because I like low fidelity and really like not terrible production, but I don't like it when guitars in heavy music sound clean when they're
Mm.
distorted. You know what I mean? Like when you listen to Disturbed albums, they all sound really refined, kind pretty in a way. You know? I
Yeah.
don't like that. I really don't. It takes away a lot of the gritty and like gut wrenching feeling of a guitar, and his vocals back up the aesthetic of Disturbed in a way that's kind of like, eh. I think that would have worked better if you were more abrasive, but that's me.
All right. Well, I mean, this is not going to be a good week. Then I just have the feeling like I feel like we're both going to just very much hate the music we're forced to listen to.
It's all right. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to agree on everything, and
No.
that's fine.
I did this did occur to me this week is what if one week in the distant future we both decide to recommend the same album without
I
like
really doubt that's going to happen based on where our musical tastes revolve around.
no, but here's the thing is that if we start like if you start exposing me to new music and I decide that I like it,
Yeah.
I I might go down that road and kind of explore it more.
Oh,
And
wait
then
until you listen to the Fishmans.
then
Just
our musical sensibilities will start to merge. And eventually, if we keep doing this long enough, we'll get to the point where we both recommend the same album.
yeah. I will say that
And
a lot of the
then,
music that you listen to is like, oh yeah, I've listened to this before. I used to,
yeah,
and I like that. I don't mind that at all. Uh,
but anyway,
yeah.
when that happens, I'm not saying if, I am saying when it happens that we both recommend the same album to each other the same week, that is the end of this podcast. We're just done. No more Triple Doink podcast at that point.
We will rename.
We will come back the following week with a new name.
Oh man,
Um,
I doubt we will because my. I mean, if you start actually getting into like the music I listen to, you're gonna realize that it's a trip.
hmm,
I feel because I relish in sonic differences in the music I like. I really like exposing my ears to things that are just off the wall and just something I've never heard before, which is why I have albums by Woody Guthrie, a guy that was from the Dust Bowl era, right next to like really abrasive experimental hip hop. Like that's just I like hearing things that just other people aren't doing that sound so fucking good. Uh I don't know. I'm gonna try to find artists. Maybe I'll suggest Car Seat Headrest to you, and you'll probably really like Car Seat Headrest
all right.
next
Well,
year. I think that's the band I need to show you because they're weird, but they're good.
okay. Well, we will perhaps get to that next time.
Yeah, it's. I think this segment's gone on long enough too.
Yeah, I think we're about ready to wrap up this podcast. So
All right. Yeah.
we'll we'll see you get well, we won't see you because we're on this end of the podcast. You'll see us next time. And
Uh.
I'm I'm Ryan and my friend Bryce,
I.
Frodo, and Sam. Go
Yeah.
home, Sam.
Go.
Go home, Sam.
I guess I'm going home.